It's now 5 o'clock. We'll call the regular board meeting of the McDowell County Board of Education to order. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hardy, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction of the members. To my left is Larkin Rippeth, Margaret Beavers. I'm Angela Robinette, Vice President. President Georgia West is on the phone. Dr. Barker is Superintendent and the Secretary, and Mr. Ed Evans. First item on the agenda is to approve minutes of the November 18, 2024 regular session.
Second.
Motion by Larkin, second by Margaret. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. No delegations or speakers? Okay. Discussion items, board member reports and presentations, school address review of data initiatives by Kimball Elementary. Mr. Hardy.
Maybe so. Alrighty. First and foremost, good evening. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to be here, speak a little bit about what we do at Kimball Elementary School. Before I get into it, I'll just try to hit the high points. If you got questions, stop me. If you want to wait till the end, that's fine too. I'll try not to bore you to death, but we'll get through it, and like I said, stop me if you got questions. So for the state of the school, so kind of how we're operating right now, we got 14 teaching positions pre-K through 5th grade. We have 2 current vacancies that are filled by long-term subs in both pre-K and a multi-cat special ed position. One of my long-term subs is actually leaving that position after tomorrow, so I'll be with Miss White, and we'll be trying to fill that position once again. I have 4 sub teachers that are pretty regularly available, so it's truly pretty rare for us to run into a situation where we don't have sub coverage for a day, and that's a blessing in and of itself as compared to some other places. We had no current service vacancies. I have a very, very good service staff, very attentive to their jobs and their positions, take a lot of pride in the building. And the students that they serve. And just I have a very veteran staff overall. Been doing it for a long time. Of course, there's always new tricks of the trade to learn as you go along, as research continues to evolve regarding public education. But they're willing to adapt, and they do a great job up there. So what is new for us? We absorbed the mod classroom from Miss Diaz at Welch in August, which that did something nice for us. Last year we had about 10 kids in that mod classroom, kindergarten through 5th grade. And when you are trying to teach a wide range of kids, K through 5th grade, and they have so many different needs, that made it tough. But in absorbing Miss Diaz's class, we were able to create a K2 classroom and a 3-5 classroom, which has really helped us tailor more to the needs of what those students specifically need in their IEP goals, which has been really, really beneficial for the students and then also us schedule-wise. I think right now there is 9 in the K2 class and like 7 in the 3-5 class, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's, I mean, we're pretty full, but just being as we were able to get them into more development We're just waiting. Currently stands, but once we get that back, we'll be able to place her back in general ed, and then she'll just have special ed pull out for reading and math. So the more of that, the better. You know, we preach all the time, special education is not a career sentence. It's not a career academic sentence. We want to get you in, get you what you need, get you caught up, and get you out. Here's our strategic plan goals. We have one, and this is for all of us, all of our schools here. We have one that addresses chronic absenteeism. We want to get ours below 42.3% by the end of the year, which I think we're on a pretty good trajectory to be able to reach that. No, that was round about where we were at last year, by the end of the year. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then, of course, we have, different from years past, we have 2 academic goals now, one that addresses ELA, one that addresses math. And Dr. Barker has requested that, you know, we try to increase our proficiency score on the end of the year test, the GSA, by at least 3%. So that's always going to be our goal. In some areas, it feels like it's a little hefty. In other areas, it feels like it's very attainable. So we're continuing to work on that. And then, of course, down there at the bottom, with us being a Title I school at Kimball, family engagement's always is a high priority to us, which is admittedly an area that we struggle in to get some engagement. So we've really tried to get outside the box and how that we bring families into the school. But that continues to be a focus area for us, as you can see there with our strategic plan goals. Chronic absenteeism rate currently we're a little under 27%, approximately 10% lower than it was this time last year, which of course lower is better when it comes to that number. We're continuing to fight the good fight as far as that's concerned. We're trying to invest in our kids and really preach a good message to them, reaching out to families, working with them, trying to figure out what barriers that we can help them overcome, get their kids to school, because we know, at the end of the day, we can do all the good and great things in the world, but if they're not there to teach them, then nothing we do matters. Just a few little things that we do. We have attendance incentives. We have the weekly attendance champions. We go by average daily attendance percentage for the class. We do that every single week. We got a board in the hallway that you'd see anytime. The kids always see it when they can go to lunch, and they come in the mornings. We have a trophy that travels to different classes. Whoever wins it for the week gets the trophy and take a picture with it, that whole 9 yards. And then once you spell out Kimball, it doesn't have to be consecutive, but once you spell out Kimball, we have popcorn party during recess so that we don't have to sacrifice instructional time for that. But we still want them to understand, like, it's important for you to be here, and we appreciate your efforts. Behavior, just to touch on that a little bit, because I feel like it's something that I need to spend a little time talking about with my specific school. We had major issues with behavior last year. Spent a lot of my time addressing those, and this past summer, we knew we had a PBIS revamp coming, which is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports Program. We knew that was coming, but I also knew that, I really needed to make sure that we at Kimball dug our feet in really tough into the mud and make some changes there. So my team and I went to 3 different sessions over the summer to kind of get brushed up on PBIS, as did every other school in the county. And we created a great plan. We came and we rolled it out with expectations: be safe, be responsible, be respectful. What does that look like in every single area of our building? What does that look like on the bus, the bathrooms, the hallways, the classrooms, cafeteria, breakfast and lunch, dismissal? And as you can see there, discipline referrals are down 28% this year as compared to last year in terms of where we're at here on December 2nd. Out of school suspensions are down. We've got 1 for 1 day so far this year. This time last year we had 4 for 14 days. And as we got through the month of December last year, that number was growing increasingly. So Also, to kind of help with that particular thing, we run the incentive activities. So we celebrate our students who do what they're supposed to do. They come to school, they don't have behavior issues, or they have very minor ones, that we're able to just review expectations and go back over things and explain, why we don't make those choices, et cetera, et cetera. So we try to reward those kids. And then on the other side of that, for the students that don't qualify for those, I've really made it a major effort of mine to pop into those classrooms as the students that don't qualify and help them understand this is not a punishment for you. This is a learning opportunity for you to understand what our expectations are. Let's clarify that for you. Whatever issue you might have been having, is there something we can do to help? Whatever that might be. We actually got one of those coming up this Thursday. This is our beginning of the year, back in September. We don't have Diagnostic 2 yet because we take it in the next couple of weeks. Our data for reading. As you can see, we got 15% or so of our students testing into the green, which means that they are on or above grade level. 42% of our students were tested 1 or grade level behind, which is not atypical on that particular test, because we're giving them, testing material for, if it's a first grade student, all of what is encompassed in first grade, and obviously they've not gotten all that yet. So it's not atypical to see them running a little behind. 28% of our students are 2 or more grade levels below, and 15% of our students are 3 or more grade levels below. And then you can dive into the domains and the subcategories there below to see that, we got some strengths and we got some weaknesses that we're very well aware of. Our staff's well aware of them. This is, how we spend our PLC meetings discussing these particular things, to make sure that they understand that there's a need, and we need to continually be trying to address those needs.
What is the top line?
On the domains?
Yes.
Phonological awareness. So if you're wondering about that gray, it wasn't assessed because of their grade. They've already passed out of it. Okay, absolutely. This is math. Common thread, I'm sure, that you've seen from the other schools that have presented, and you'll continue to see it from schools that have not presented. Math is not as strong as reading. We're very well aware of that. We've taken steps. We have a math cadre here in the county that I'm lucky to be a part of, to kind of help drive some of the change for that. 4% of our students are on grade level, 51, 1 grade level behind, and then 26, 2 or more below, and then 19%, 3 or more below. And you can see the breakdown of the domains there. And again, that becomes part of the PLC conversations that we have. We got a new math curriculum this year that I think we're going to see some major benefit from versus what we have previously used since I had became principal at Kimball. I like what we have now in Ready Math a lot better than what we had in Go Math personally. But our kids seem to be grasping on the concepts a little bit better and understanding that, these things tie together. And our teachers are more conscientious of that because we're having those conversations more and trying to make people more comfortable teaching math. Current projects and initiatives, again, we're working with teachers to tighten their expectations academically. We're looking at our assessments. We're figuring out what our rigor is on our particular questions. Is there another way to ask that question that might cause a student to, connect to another concept, to help these things build off one another, apply it in a different type of situation versus just remembering it one way to pass the test and then move on to something else. Constantly looking at that. Analyzing data trends within our leadership team, PBIS team, and attendance team to regularly integrate those changes. We meet once a month, sometimes more than once a month on each of those teams. They're all separate. Got a lot of different ideas and things that get tossed around. I got a lot of good people helping me lead the work that we're doing on those teams. Working to declutter the building with the consolidation quickly approaching. We had a gentleman from VS that we're working with for the furniture for the new school came and worked with Miss Cook, my kindergarten teacher, to kind of go through, what the thought process needs to be when we're looking through, well, what are those items that we need to keep right now? What are those items that we can get rid of? What are those items that can go to a universal storage that other people might be able to use? And just from my perspective, being able to be a part of that and see that and helping facilitate that with the other folks in my building as the year progresses, I feel like was very beneficial. So we're excited about doing that. I've not gotten as much pushback from that as I thought that I might get, because again, very veteran staff. They've been in their classrooms for a long time, so I respect their spaces in that aspect. But we have to understand that, again, consolidation's coming. And just continuing to build our family engagement through our Title I program. We're constantly finding ways to reach out to our families, surveying them, having conversations, inviting them in for things. That is a topic of almost every single meeting that we have, regardless of whether it's PBIS, leadership, attendance, faculty senate. How can we get parents in here to get some feedback? Questions, comments, concerns?
What you feel is your school's absolute strongest area? It doesn't have to be academic.
Sure.
What are the kids really good at? What do they enjoy doing? That kind of thing.
I will say this. We have, again, chronic absenteeism is a problem. But we have one of the smallest numbers of that in the county. Our kids, I feel like, from my perspective, like being there. They think that they're cared about. They feel loved, and they know that they're a priority for us.
So your environment,
I would say yes. Yeah, it's.
I think it's really important that your environment
Sure.
be conducive to learning.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all.
All right, school address and review of data and initiatives, Welch Elementary, Ms. Diaz.
All right. Is it okay if I stand back here so I can click? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having us out this evening. And I'm here with Mr. Johnson, and he is our leadership team, one of our leadership team members, and he is my leadership team member who is the representative on our PBIS team. Our attendance team leadership member was doing homebound tonight, so she couldn't make it to help me with this presentation. And he's also the future assistant principal at the new school. So super exciting. All right. So at Welch, we soar. We're safe, we own our actions, we act with kindness, and we're respectful. So we're going to talk about our reading achievement, our math achievement, some behavior data, attendance, and some celebrations we got going on at Welch. And the top four are our goals, strategic plan goals. So just some overall data, balanced scorecard. So what you're looking at here, I'm sure you've seen this already, is that in English and mathematics, that our overall is the top. And when you see the check marks, that means we met our goals. So we did that in mathematics, which as I speak, you'll find out that's a lot of work we've been doing at Welch Elementary. So that's exciting. And then in our subgroups, in our economically disadvantaged, we met our goals in both. And something to later on is you notice how much lower our bar is with our students with disabilities. So that's a subgroup that we are constantly looking at and analyzing. Kind of look at it angle. So this is our ELA. We were 24% proficient in the spring for our 3rd through 5th graders. And we were 27% proficient in mathematics. So another big piece that we are always looking at is the House Bill 3035, and that's for our kindergartners through 3rd graders. And in the fall here, 38 out of 105 students have to be monitored with intervention plans in reading, which is 36% of those kids. And then 39 out of 105 have to be monitored on intervention plans in math. That's 37%. So some of these students do fall in that subgroup of students with disabilities, but not all. K5, and you can see we're at 40% total below grade levels. Now, when you break them down by domain, like Mr. Evans asked, what's that top one, phonological awareness? So what I would like you to notice here, for our school, phonological awareness, phonics, and high frequency words, you see that the green bar is much more full than what's below that. And so when we analyze that data, we know that means that our explicit phonics instruction that we work very hard at Welch, not only in the core, but also in our WIN groups, which I'll talk about again, is working. So teaching those kids that repetitive, different ways to learn the sounds and the letters and make up those words. So in reading, what are we doing? This year, we are focusing on content and vocabulary, because just like I showed you from all those bars, we know that explicit phonics instruction is working, but this is a county problem, so it's not just our school. We know that comprehension is not working. So through all these professional developments that we've been doing and book studies, we're learning that our kids have got to be exposed to more content. They've got to learn the content. They've got to learn vocabulary terms. And we know that our kids don't get to go down the street to the museums like kids in the DC area or something like that, right? So they don't get to have those hands-on experiences like other kids do. And because of that, they naturally just are not going to be exposed to that vocabulary. So that's been a huge push with the help of the district and the professional developments, and then making a plan with our students and how do we move forward. We've also worked a lot so far this year with conversation sentence stems, having conversations with the students and using very specific sentence stems, repeating the question back in their sentences, because we know that that is going to help improve that vocabulary. And really, really focusing on our questioning in the classroom. So as I do walkthroughs, that's one of the things on my walkthrough form that I'm looking for. Are we extending those questions, getting those kids to not only hear all that exposure, but also be able to say it back. And then, of course, like I said before, just continue enforcement with our explicit phonics instruction. We see the data moving countywide. We're seeing it move with those younger grades. And we know when they're younger, they learn to read, right? And then we need to get them where they can learn to read to learn as they're older. And then at Welch Elementary, we have a very, very consistent WIN group implementation, and that's our response to intervention. And WIN means what I need, so it's very individualized to the needs of the students. So in mathematics, like Mr. Hardy said, this is going to be kind of a repetitive thing as all of us principals have looked at each other's data. We know this is a countywide issue. We are 3% in mathematics, and this is the current K through 5 students. 55% are on that 1 grade level below. At Welch Elementary, we have really dove into that number. We sat down each teacher and looked at who those kids are and where they fall on that bar, because that bar is a spectrum. So they may be really, really close to red. They may be very, very close to green. And so where are they? Where are their deficits? And how do we address those? And then these are the domains in mathematics. And we don't really have anything that stands out and says, wow, we're fantastic, or pretty much we have to work on everything. So what are our action steps in mathematics? We know that we have so much growth to make. At Welch, we've been working on student discourse, and like Mr. Hardy said, this new Ready Math, fantastic. It lends itself so well to all the things the math cadre is learning about what kids need, how their brains need to learn in math. This new curriculum has been phenomenal, and already in the first 9 weeks, all of our teachers are just singing the praises and saying, like, we can see so much growth in kids. And one of the biggest things is them having those conversations, talking about the math process. And we've been talking a lot about how do we take our, kind of jumping ahead, but how do we take our classrooms and from being teacher-centered to student-centered. And in mathematics, we're seeing it in the first 9 weeks at Welch. So I'm super excited to see what kind of progress we make this year. And our staff is really great about participating in all the professional development opportunities for mathematics. We have a big push on manipulatives, having those manipulatives out, having them available, having a selection available. The teacher can offer, this is what I use, but also letting them use what they feel like they need. So the student having that buy-in. And then there's specific when I go through and do my walkthroughs, I have specific look-fors that I'm looking for manipulatives to be offered, either physically or verbally, and that there is that conversation going on. So there's that constant monitoring in the classroom. And then we are trying to be really intentional about the use of iReady for that individualized instruction. In reading, we have a fantastic WIN group system set up, and we tried a few different things last year in mathematics to kind of mirror that. And then since we've realized, there's a lot of different things that have to occur in mathematics than it does in reading. And so we've really used this iReady to push the individualized portion. And if they need to go backwards, they can use that time to do that and to push them forward. Or if they excel, you can keep on excelling them, which we know is difficult sometimes. All right, PBIS.
So looking at our PBIS data, we use Educator's Handbook, which I think everybody in the county has access to throughout the schools. But in 2023, 2024, if you look at the data, there was only 91 referrals, 223 minors, and this was for the entire school year. Looking at our data this year, there's 56 referrals already and 232 minors. Now, whenever you look at that, you think, wow, that's a lot already, it's only been 9 weeks. However, we realized last year that nobody was really using the system with fidelity. So some teachers were using it, some teachers were not using it at all. So the PBIS team, we really needed to come up with a way to make sure that everybody was documenting everything, especially when it came to behavior. We needed that data. So the PBIS team took it upon themselves to start creating a culture of fidelity, just making sure that we are stressing to the teachers how important it is to get that behavior data in, and also helping teachers with expectations, helping them teach expectations, reteach. Like today was a really big day because they just came back from Thanksgiving break. We made sure that teachers took time to reteach expectations, not only in their classrooms, but in the hallways, bathrooms, cafeteria, bus. And then we have been holding PBIS incentives, also meetings too, monthly, and celebrating students with their good behavior. And for like an example, for our incentive, the students could not receive one office referral or more than 3 minors. Thinking about a minor is something that a teacher can handle in their classroom, and they just document it. So what this data is driving is more for the teachers to document that they have tried some sort of intervention. You know, we're wanting the teachers to try out the interventions before it gets sent to the principal's office. We also noticed that for like students who have extreme behaviors and they're needing like an FBA, functional behavior assessment, or like a behavior intervention plan, that we need to have that documentation set up, and we need to know what interventions worked, what interventions didn't work with those students. Also, this data is important for the intentional uses of and the incentives, more meaningful behavior goal setting with students. So even if, you know, we're seeing that this is not like a cookie cutter approach with students. There is more, it's not a one size fit all. So we might have to set different goals with students than other students as well. So for that maybe one student where we're asking them to get no more than 3 minors, it might be 6 in that month. So just to keep a track of all the students in our school. And then for chronic absenteeism, at the end of the 2022-2023 school year, we were at 48%. For 2023-2024, we were at 40%, so that was awesome. We went down 8% there. And as of today, Welch Elementary is at 24%. So the attendance team is doing a really good job about targeting those students who are chronically absent, seeing what we can do to help them. And a really big shout out to our CIS coordinator. She's really good about working with the teachers and contacting those parents to see what all we can do for them.
I will add, at Welch, in both behavior and attendance, we have absolutely taken an individualized approach. So like Mr. Johnson said, we really have found that there's not a magic, any kind of cookie cutter approach, and say like this one thing is going to change behavior. Because like we know when with working with kids in trauma, and with multiple backgrounds, there's just so many things they bring to the table and they walk through the doors with. And it would be insane for us to say, well, this behavior deserves this because this is, you know, one way we do this. So I truly believe there's no number or data or chart that proves me right or wrong, but my gut tells me that that's why we've made huge improvements in behavior and in attendance, because we really truly invest in the families and invest in the kids. So what we do, we connect our assessments to content through data analysis and work with our curriculums. And like I mentioned before, having Ready Math has really helped with that, because there's so many built-in assessments that directly connect to the content standards. It makes our lives a whole lot easier. The teachers love it, and it saves them so much time. Which if their time is saved, then they're happy, and if they're happy, then I'm happy, and that means the kid's happy, and it's good. So we do data walls and have data conversations with the students, and the teachers have data conversations on a regular basis. And any of you could walk into any of my classrooms and pull a child and bring them out into the hallway and have them explain what's on their data wall, and pretty much everybody could explain that to you. So that's a huge win for us. And the big thing that we do is we just try to cut out the fluff and focus on what we can control. Because like I mentioned before, the kids bring a lot into those doors, and there's a lot of things we can't control. So my teachers hear from me all the time, we're going to focus on what we can control. Oops, okay. So, of course, we have some concerns. These are things that are on our radar, on our leadership team's radar, on my radar. Like I mentioned before, special education subgroup data. We know we have one of the highest percentages of special ed kids in the county. We have 37%, I believe. is our current number of kids with IEPs. And that's any kind of IEP, but that's a pretty high number, and we know that. And then our big concern, which I believe will be a celebration by the end of this year, is to have less teacher-centered classrooms and more student-centered classrooms. That's been a huge push for us. And then students being able to articulate their data. We're working on that. Alrighty, and we got some big celebrations. Our current chronic absenteeism rate is declining, and it toggles. Some days it's 22, and I'm like, yay, and then some days it's 24, but it's been hanging in there about 22 to 26, and I can't say it enough, we individualize everything, so you in front of them, kids, and that's those kids in the yellow. When you pull up Zoom, it says it needs attention. We pay very close attention to those kids. We divide them up among the building, and we use our relationships. So our cook has some very phenomenal relationships with some kids that are on the chronic absenteeism list. So she knows she's got to do a check-in with them every day. And if they don't come through her line, you better believe she is going up to that classroom and seeing if they came in late. And it just is like that with everybody in our building. We have to divide and conquer. There's no way we can get anywhere doing it on our own. So, and students are meeting their attendance and behavior goals. Like I said, everything is individualized. So our December incentives for both PBIS and attendance, they all set their own goals. The goal goes home. A lot of the teachers call the parents and say, hey, take a look at that paper that's got their goal on it. That's their goal in order to attend this incentive. And we're seeing huge gains in that. Our data chats are coming right along, which has been a fantastic thing, and the teachers really love having these data chats with their kids and having that intentional time to sit one-on-one with their students and really talk through where they are, where they need to be, and how can they work together as a team to get there. And then so I said that our SPED group sub-data is rough, right? But I want to celebrate our special education department because within what they're working with, they're making huge improvements. Are they bringing them up to grade level? No, we're not there yet. Do I think we can get there? Yeah, I do. I think it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of hard work and many years, but I think we can get there. But the fact that at the end of last year, we were able to get 3 of our kids moved out of reading services and into monitoring was huge. We've not seen anything like this before. And we have 2 right now that are like right there. And they know it because they're learning their data, they know, and they're getting excited that I might be so close. So these are big celebrations for us. Questions?
If I may, I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Hardy. Do I need to repeat it? What are you most proud of? What can you share with us that you're just thrilled about?
I'm proud of a lot of things. I'm going to say our relationships with kids. It's big. And that's the foundation to me that makes a difference. And of course, it makes me passionate.
Next item on the agenda is the professional personnel. You received the personnel list in your emails. There's not any, that's volunteer. There's been no additional changes. I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Margaret. Second by Larkin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The volunteer agenda, there has been one addition that we received tonight. Did everybody had a chance to look over those? I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Margaret,
Second.
second by Georgia. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is finance allowed and authorized payment of bills, budget revisions, invoices presented for payment are available in the finance office during normal business hours. You have something?
Yeah, you just go through them, you know, you do some discussion.
Okay. Entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Larkin,
Second.
second by Margaret. Any discussion?
I just wanted to show you a new way we'll be presenting some of the bills to you. Ms. Kwan can chime in if I omit something. As you know, we have been in transition in the accounts payable position, and you have just approved the new hire. So we have engaged the services for the training for that new person, and of course, meanwhile, they have been helping us pay the bills because bills will not wait. So instead of giving you 5,000 pages, because the packets you receive are really hard to sift through when you look, this is what you're going to be getting now, and this did come in late because we are working with another person who has a job in a different county, so she was doing work over the weekend. But I think it's an easier way for you to see what we have paid, and Ms. Khan will have more itemized listing of all the bills. So if you say, what did we pay for, at refrigeration, and she can tell you. But I'm thinking it's just going to be easier for you to see it, because when you get lost, like I would, unless you're looking for something, you really get lost in all that paperwork. So I just wanted to give this to you just so that you could see. We're trying to streamline things, make them more efficient. So this will be on your new board packets in a more timely manner as we go and get the new person acclimated. But I just kind of wanted to make sure that you see this new format. I think it's going to be easier for you.
Definitely.
Anything else you want to add, Ms. Khan?
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We review high school's prom. Are all fundraisers. Would you like to take those all together or individually?
So moved. To take them all together.
Motion by Margaret to take them all together. Second by Larkin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Action items, looks like 1 through, I think, 17 are all school trips. Would you like to take those together or individually?
So moved. To take
Motion.
them all together.
Motion by Margaret to take all together.
Second.
Second by Larkin. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
In going through the Dropbox and looking at each trip, what is our deal with the number of chaperones per students? I believe it's 1 per 10.
Usually is the policy.
Okay, we have several of the ball games, especially if they're ladies' games, that have 20 kids listed on the trip, but only 1 chaperone. And a couple of those are out of state. I think item number 1 there, I believe, is one of those.
Usually, I think the games, they do have the coaching staff go with them. When we have the trips for educational value, that's usually when we make sure that the 10-to-1 ratio is strictly observed.
Okay,
But
just,
with the games, it becomes such an unmanageable issue if we do have,
do all the teams have assistant coaches at the high school level?
yes.
Okay, so well, maybe they should be sure they list that other assistant coach, if you would, maybe
Yeah, I'll make
let our
sure
athletic
Mr. Walker knows.
administration know that. That way I'll feel better voting for this, that,
Yeah.
that I know they're well chaperoned.
I'll make sure ladies know too, because
Thank you.
usually Mr. Warber and Mr. Prater.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 18 is approval to place revised policy 8-058, substitutes in areas of critical need and shortage, up for comment. Motion by Larkin,
Second.
second by Margaret. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Again, in looking at that, I'm not sure I understood exactly by looking at what was in the packet. Could you just give us a little more information?
So this policy, substitutes in the areas of critical need and shortage, and then number 19, which is substitute bus operators. We have to place these policies up for comment. Even I think Tanya just changes the year, but those policies have to be revised every single year, and they have to be sent to the State Department for their
Okay,
approval.
so these are coming up for review publicly now?
Mhm.
That's what we're voting to do?
Yes.
Okay, because I knew we had the policy, I just,
Yeah, it's just like, this is something that we have to do every year, because we just, Tanya, if you can explain a little bit more, because the first one, we have had it for years. The other one, substitute the bus operators, we had to create a new one last year, following legislative action to include the bus drivers in that pool. So if you can just give a little bit of information to the board members.
Yeah, every year after it's approved here, it goes to the State Department, and then the State Board approves or sends it back for revisions. And unless there's legislative changes, which there hasn't been, basically all we do is change the date for the school year, and then we put it back through. So this year's, that's all the change that there is. There was no new legislative action taken, so it's just approving the same one with the new school year.
perfect.
What does the policy allow us to?
It allows us to use retired teachers and retired bus operators in positions, in long-term positions, so they can go in excess of 140 days. Because if they're not approved to do that and they work more than 140 days, then they take a hit to their retirement. They have a financial penalty that they will have to pay. So we rely a lot on our substitutes. So we always make sure that we get this in place. That way we can request a waiver to that, basically, and they don't have to pay that financial penalty.
So in these critical needs, do we still stay with the same pace schedule, time-wise, 10 days, whatever it is? I don't remember, but, okay.
And we only really knew this for item 19, we had to create a separate one. Because first we wanted to lump it all in with the existing one, and then they had to send us that back and say, no, you have to create a separate policy for the bus drivers. That's why you have to have two policies.
Any additional questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 19, approval to place revised policy 8-059, substitute bus operators in areas of critical need and shortage, up for comment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Margaret, second by Larkin. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 20, authorization of the board president or the superintendent to execute and record the required notices of federal interests in certain school properties arising out of a COVID. Motion by
Explain, because
Thank
she's
you.
the one that's been
Yeah,
dealing with.
yeah.
Bowles and Rice actually have suggested this verbiage. So she's the one that's been dealing with this, along with Mr. Chapman, and working with Mr. D'Antoni from Bowles and Rice.
So basically what happened is after they gave us all the COVID money, the ESSER and our money, now the federal government said that they have interest in the building and the structures that we put that money into. And so they want that recorded on the deeds and the property. So anything that we put over $1 million, which is 3 projects, we put the door project at Mountview High School, the HVAC project, when we did air and controls in the gym, and we upgraded some of those units, and at Southside, because as you know, we talked about it before we were doing that, we've already exhausted the HVAC units on Southside K8, so we put over $1 million at each of those projects. So 3 projects, we're gonna have to go pay Bowles Rice, which actually the state's given us a grant. So it's about $8,000 to pay Bowles Rice to do the deed work and to change all of that for us. Then any project over $500,000, which we had a lot of projects over $500,000, Mr. Chapman and I have to do a recording process and just report that out. And we have to fill out a bunch of forms and documents and give that to the federal government. So we're working on recording and reporting all at the same time by January the 15th. So basically, they gave us the money and now they have federal interest in our sites that we put over $1 million in.
Okay, so federal interest, can you just, a little more on that?
They're just interested in where that money went and they
Okay.
want to make sure it's on the deeds.
So it's just a paperwork thing to say that we have spent the money the way it should have been spent? And we're reporting it out to you and letting you know we did?
They now own interest in that property.
Okay, that's my question. I'm not understanding when you say they hold interest.
They're just interested in where the money went to and want to make sure that that's showing on the deed, that we added $1 million plus.
Like I said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all that they really, they didn't say, we want your buildings, or we, you know, anything like
Right.
that. It says that on the deed, it has to show the federal government put $1 million worth of value and assets into that site.
Okay, so
And
it's
that's what Bowles and Rice
it's a paper
is
trail.
doing.
okay, thank you.
Hopefully it's paper trail. We
Yeah.
don't really, they just keep making up new rules. We keep swinging every time they give us a new ball.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the last thing is superintendent's update.
So I'll try to be brief. So on November 22nd, all schools have conducted the preference vote with the service and professional staff to see if preference would be given to the employees from all the feeder schools going to Caulfield Elementary. So Ms. White gave the schools the deadline of today, so we got all the votes, and the staff of McDowell County Schools, both professional and service, voted to give preference to the feeder schools in the hiring process. So once we have the refund transfer season start, that vote will govern how we hire the personnel for those schools. So I just wanted to let you know, just hot off the press. In January, we are holding our math conference in Glade Springs, and we have, 75 personnel. We have some aides as well that have registered to attend the math conference. I know Ms. Renee will be sending your attendance registration for the February SBA conference, which is Thursday, Friday, and then you have Wednesday, you have another session. So I think she has all, I think we are waiting on Ms. West, and I know she might take time to decide how she wants to participate, but that's in the works. And the last one, I just wanted to share this with you. I have been in communication with Mr. Charles Blair, and he has been handling the estate of late Jerry Herndon. And I just wanted to read an email from one of his friends, and we will reach out to WVA News and post something on our website too, because they wanted this small token of recognition, which after I tell you what it's about, I think it's quite a lot, not even a lot to ask. So this email says, as a friend of many decades of Jerry, I asked to be able to share a bit about Jerry to accompany his bequest of $1,100,000 to help further vocational education efforts for children in McDowell County. Jerry was proud to be a West Virginian and to have grown up in McDowell County. During our friendship of over 50 years, he shared many memories of working in the mines as a youngster, lying about his age to land a job. He was particularly fond of beans and cornbread and liver sandwiches, and treated me to these local specialties in later years. Jerry attended WVU and graduated with a degree in mining engineering in the early 60s. So he was in engineering school with that person's husband. And so eventually Jerry went to work for Mining Safety and Health Administration in Beckley, where he helped in building their library and development training for miner safety. Jerry never married, but helped countless people throughout his life. He was a colorful, eccentric individual, and he believed everyone should have a chance to succeed in life, and always loved deeply the McDowell County area of West Virginia. He wanted to make a difference for boys and girls in the county who would come after him by offering financial aid to those not college-bound through the McDowell County vocational schools. I know he's smiling with sheer joy as his gift for them is accepted to benefit them in building successful futures. So I gave the check to Ms. Khan today. It will be deposited and it will be used to, as you know, we are working to put CTC into Fall River, so it will be helping to get those efforts and give the children of McDowell County schools a better chance. So I just wanted to share, so we'll work to get that to the new station because I think it's a small favor to ask after this much money. That's all I have.
Our next meeting will be December 16th, 2024. It'll be a regular meeting here at the board office at 5 p.m. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
Motion by Larkin, second by Margaret, and we are adjourned at 5:56.